Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to the ladies that reminded me to go ahead and hit record. So today we are going to talk about time management and the method to my madness of managing a business, traveling all over the place, and keeping my sanity. Many of you have gone ahead and asked for a time management class, so this is it. And this is the first time that I'm teaching it. So welcome, and we're glad to go ahead and have you. To formally introduce myself, if you do not know who I am, my name is Amanda Brewton. I am the owner of Medicare Answers Now, which is an FMO out of Cleveland, Ohio. We have agents all across the country in 40 states. I am also the creator of the ms.medicare conference, which will be in its fifth year next year, which is in Cleveland, Ohio in July. The boys got mad that the girls had a conference and they didn't. So I have a second conference that I host every March. This year it'll actually be next year it'll actually be in April, which is Medicare and Margaritas. That is a 3-day, half-day deep dive on various topics on how to actually run your business, grow your business, and all the things that go into that. It is a lot of fun, and it is in Orange Beach, Alabama. The dates on that one are April 28th to the 30th this year for 25. And then last but not least, I am the creative content director, if you will, for the Agent Symposium for Medicarians. Medicarians is the agents or the industry's largest trade show conference in the industry. It is held March 31st to April 2nd of next year. It will be held at Caesars. And this is where 4,000, yes, 4,000 of the industry's movers and shakers will be to learn about what's going on in the industry. And you have all the people that will be there. If you are interested in that particular conference, if you click into Medicarians and you enroll in a hosted ticket, put my name, Amanda Brewton, and you'll get a free ticket. So all you got to do is get yourself there, and then you've got the ability to learn. For Medicare Margaritas, both of those tickets are open and for sale. For 2025, we did have it where now we have to charge for the tickets just due to the environment that's going on. For the last 4 years, I have raised the money with the carriers to get it. So what you do, just so that way you guys can, I forgot I'm sharing my screen. So if I go ahead and I pull out of this, what you're going to do is go to my website, which is Medicare Answers Now, and you will see I have a ms.medicare.org website that you can do your registration here. For this conference, for Medicare and Margaritas, it's medicaremargaritas.com. So then you can register and find out about that particular conference. As you can see, it is in a bar. We do drink at it. It is one good time and a ridiculous amount of learning. For Medicarians, if you click, let me go back here. If you click on the blue Medicarians link, what you can do is click into here and you can find out about Medicarians and what that is. Again, they are projected to have 4,000 people here. And all you're going to do is click on to register, and you want this hosted ticket. So it's free. Click in apply now. And then at the bottom, it is going to ask you, where did you learn? Where did you find out about this? You're just going to put my name. Second that you do that, then they'll go ahead and they will get you a ticket and you are ready to roll. Just get yourself there. Again, it's at Caesars. So that's how you get the tickets to the conferences that I run. And hope to see you at them. Next year is going to be a crazy year, and they are not the same content by any stretch of the imagination on any of those. So just be aware of that when you are registering or trying to figure out which ones make sense. They're totally different content in all three. The vibes are different. Everything is different on all of them. So going into the actual content regarding time management, there are two things that I see that agents suck at. And the first one is you guys listen for shit. And yes, I did say that. Your listening skills are beyond piss poor. The amount of time that I watch you guys on various webinars and various classes with other people that I'm not even presenting, you focus to talk, not focus to hear what is being said. Which I would tell all of you on the call for this upcoming AEP and moving on, you've got to get your listening skills better. Fundamentally, that is the number one thing that I see that you guys are having an issue with, which then is dragging you down as far as touching things multiple times because you're not listening to it. Now you have to replay everything, or you're trying to multitask. It's just not working. When it comes to learning, you have to go ahead and understand that from a learning perspective, you want to see it, you want to hear it, and you want to write it. So that is why I encourage that you have little baby notebooks. Many of you have them when you have been to events of mine in person. We give you notebooks like this one. They're small enough to put in a briefcase. I run 3 different notebooks at any given point in time. And they all have a different cover on them. This is, one is my day-to-day one. So here's the first note. I have one notebook that is my day-to-day follow-up notes on what it is that I'm doing. I have a second notebook that is my best practice notebook. That one has all the things that go well, all the things that went wrong, and all the things that as I think of that are like, I need to do this next year. I need to look at this. And you put those things in that notebook because come January, your carriers, your uplines, and you need to figure out, okay, what worked well last year, what didn't, and what needs to improve. Because that's a part of setting your goals. And setting your goals is part of the time management. This is all going to weave in together, which today we've got an hour and a half to go through all of this. And I am going to take my time talking about it because it's so important to go ahead and take a look at, right? The other third notebook that I heap is marketing ideas. So I am a big proponent of brainstorming different marketing ideas. And as you guys post things in my Facebook groups, or you are looking at somebody or hearing what somebody's doing, or you see a picture of what somebody's doing, you're like, you know what, I want to try that. You want to put it in that notebook so that way you're good to go. Jill says, I'm trying a digital notebook, Remarkable too. And those are fantastic. Yes. So what a digital notebook is it's a very thin notebook that you use a pen and you write your notes on this pad. And what ends up happening is that pad then at the end of the day can upload into all the notes into your laptop, and it becomes a way for you to take notes that is really good. For me, I do spiral notebooks because I'm old school and my handwriting is really, really bad. So I type everything. When I send out cards, I personally sign all cards that are sent out, but I usually type my name underneath them. Otherwise, you wouldn't know who the hell it was, right? So yeah, there's all sorts of functionality. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is the different types of tools that are available to you. So today's presentation is going to go into 3 parts. Okay. You have one part that we're going to talk about what the hell is time management and what are a couple of the different philosophies when it comes to time management. Then we're going to talk about, okay, how do I actually do it? What kind of systems do you use? All of that. And then the last piece of the puzzle that we're going to talk about today are the different types of um, systems and things that you can put into place to better maximize your time. So those are all the different pieces, parts that we're going to work on today as we're rolling through this. Okay. So when we go ahead and we look at time management, I am a big proponent of Stephen Covey. How many of you guys have read Seven Habits of Highly Effective People? Put it in the chat for me. If you have not read Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, get the audiobook or go on to Amazon and get the book. It's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. By the time we get done with this, guys, you're going to have a couple of books to add to your reading list for your development. And yes, you can do it through Kindle, you can do it through Audible, you can do it through a bunch of different ways. But there's Stephen Covey's time management is basically, yes, it is a classic business book. You do need to regularly reread it every couple of years. I average about once every 3 years, I review it just to brush up on my skills. Okay. So, one of the things and I'm going to use myself as the example, not because I want to brag about how I do things, but so often you guys ask, how the hell do you manage so many different things and do all the things that you do? I wouldn't be able to do that, right? So how I do this is through Stephen Covey and Franklin Covey, which I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you some of the tools today that I use and how I use them, so that it fits a little bit better. But basically, the premise of his idea is that you want to identify the big things that matter to you. So every December, I start doing my posts in the group about big rocks. Okay. And you're going to hear that. You're going to hear about big rocks, little rocks, and the medium sized ones. And this goes to that analogy that you have of a jar. And how much can you fit in the jar? Well, if you load the jar where it is all sand first, then pebbles, then big rocks, usually the big rocks, by the time that you're ready to go ahead and put those in the jar, you can only add a couple of them in there and not a whole lot. If you do it backwards, you can fit a whole lot more in the jar. And that's what the premise of his thinking is to identify those major things that matter to you. Now, here's the thing. Some people do these exercises and they are flippant with it. They're like, okay, well, I want to grow my business. I want to be able to come home every day after working an 8-hour day and, not have to worry and work extra hours. I want to go ahead and travel the country. I want to take a couple of vacations. Everybody's big rocks are different, right? So when we're looking at doing this, and you have to identify what those things are that matter to you. What are your non-negotiables? Come hell or high water, you need to be here at this time. Or I need X amount of days blocked off for this type of activity. Those are what's referred to as a non-negotiable. So I'm going to use myself as an example so I don't call anybody out and they don't get butthurt because of it. So I have several. When I start my time management, I start looking at, okay, what do I have coming up in the year? And I actually do some longer term goals, and some of the agents that have been working with me for a while know them in that, what's my stretch goal? What is the most outlandish thing that I have that I'm going to put out into the world that I want? And you guys, some of you are going to laugh, but 5 years ago, I achieved my career dream, right? I got my agency. I never thought that I'd be able to go ahead and work out on my own. I figured I was destined to work corporate my entire life because it just wasn't possible for me. I couldn't see how to make it happen. And that was 5 years ago. And I went, okay, well, I got that dream. So I had put that on social media, and one of the my followers went ahead and asked, okay, well, you achieved this dream. So what's the next thing that you're going after? And at the time, I was reading a Rachel Hollis book. And Rachel Hollis was talking about being a New York bestseller and how she does a vision board. I don't do one, some people do. But she had put on her vision board the most outlandish thing that she could think of, that it was like, I'm going to die if this actually happens, but it's a shot in the dark and I would love to have this happen. And that was the most far-fetched thing that she could think of, was becoming a New York seller. And this is an Instagram post that I had seen, and I'm going to answer the LinkedIn call out of, okay, well, what are you going after next? And for those that know me well, I love Europe, specifically Italy, specifically the Verona and Venice area. And if you ever come into my office, you will see I have one massive wall behind this monitor that has all of my travels, and it has a picture a painting that I bought off of a street vendor in Venice, and it's of some of the canals. So I went, well, okay. My most outlandish thing that I want to go ahead and do is I want a house. I want a house in Italy. I want a house in Tuscany. That's the most outlandish thing that I can think of ever making happen. So I posted this, and one of the coolest things happened is that the agents that are in my downline said, "Game on. We'll help you get to that, but you got to get a house big enough so we can come visit." So now it's not just my goal, it's their goal too. And it is the coolest thing. But that is my really, really long stretch goal of, if I had a wish to make, to dream and come true, what is that wish? That's my goal. And you know what? Inside of 10 years, odds are I'm going to hit it. And that in itself freaks me out. But oh my God, right? So you want to look at that when you're coming with your goal setting. The other ones that I have, so I set sales goals just like you guys do. And a lot of you are like, well, I don't know how to set my own goals. I don't know. And I look at other people with how they do their goals. And is it appropriate for me to say, okay, I want to sell 100 policies, 200 policies, 300 policies with the background and where you live and what's going on in the environment? Do you have that capability? So let's talk about these goals and all of that, right? I'm going to go into your goals in a minute down there, but I want to talk, I'm still on the long-term goals, right? So a lot of you guys have asked, how the hell do you travel all over the world the way that you do? How do you make that happen? Well, I'm going to give you a trick, ladies. And I think I saw a couple of gentlemen that are in here, and that's great too. But Norwegian and your cruise lines, go ahead, and every Black Friday or the month of November, they will do discount sales on cruises. And I am a big proponent of doing cruises in Europe. They are the easiest way for you to see a lot of different things and have trips of a lifetime to do. Well, you can set those cruises 2 years out. So the cruise that Tim and I just went on, which was Greece and Italy in April, I set that goal and that cruise up 2 years ago. It cost me $250 to put down on the cruise. and I did a balcony, and I did all, I did the suite and all of that. And you, in essence, have 2 years to go ahead and plan to make the payment, the final payment on that cruise. So if the total bill on that cruise is $5,000 for the two of us for a 10-day cruise, not including airfare or my excursions, then from there, what ends up happening is I take that money, that 5 grand, plus I calculate in what I want for spending money and what I want for the excursions and what I want for the airfare. And I come up with what that nut is. What's the bill? And then I back it in. So if that bill is $10,000 to go on a cruise of a lifetime, first class, and do all the things, how much do I have to sell to make that dream come true? And then I do the backwards math into that to make that dream come true. You follow me? So whatever it is that you have that's a goal, set your goals so that you have some of these that are out far. You can get to them, but you've got to go ahead and have them out far enough that each day that goes, you can actually hit that particular goal. Does that make sense as to how I'm explaining this, guys? Yes. Okay, good. Awesome. So when we go ahead and we look at the goals, so you've got the one by Franklin Covey that says figure out your tasks, figure out your goals, your mid-range, your long-term, your mid-range, and your short-term goals. And then we're going to prioritize it into that jar as to how this works. That's one way to look at time management. Okay. Then you have the next version of this, which is Peter Drucker. And his is, we got to figure out there's only 24 hours in a day. There's only 30 or 31 days in the majority of the months that are out there. So we got to figure out, how do we maximize our productivity? And are we focusing on the right things at the right time? Okay, that's what this is. Are you focusing on the right things at the right time? Or are you like at least 6 people that I know that are on this call that you squirrel every 2 seconds and mommy's got to reel you back in and go, stop it. What are we focusing on today? Right? So that's what this particular one is. And what we're going to do is we're going to meld them together into one whole process. So you've got, what are the goals and the priorities? And then are we focusing on these at the right time? And are we doing the processes the most effective way so that we're not doing dumb things at the wrong time? Give you an example of this one. Okay. Makes my staff absolutely crazy because I will be running 90 miles an hour and I will be building presentations, working on licensing stuff, going ahead and planning Zooms, going and talking to carriers, planning conferences. I work on all sorts of different things throughout a day. I wear at least 50 different hats. But then I have days that I can't concentrate. And in days like today, where I am dead ass tired, I don't know my name, and I just can't focus. Okay. Well, on those days where I know I can't focus, guess what I'm doing? Signing birthday cards, stuffing envelopes, going ahead and doing all of that brainless work that needs to be done that I have to do because I won't use a photocopied signature. That matters to me. It's a priority. Now, it still has to be done. Where people go, okay, well, why aren't you outsourcing it? Because it matters. I want the actual signature that's mine. That person, they value me with that. So the days I can't concentrate, I do the dumb stuff. I clean my house. I do my laundry. I go do something so that I'm still getting the jobs done. But it's the different types of jobs versus the things that are really, really intensive, like licensing. Licensing and contracting is one of the most difficult jobs out there for an upline like me. So I have to have intense concentration when I'm working on that. When I am writing communications to legislators or to CMS. Me writing something to CMS at 1 o'clock in the morning when I've had no sleep, probably not the smartest thing to do, because there's probably going to be some typos in there and it's going to look like I'm an idiot because I don't know how to formulate a sentence. So why don't we save that until, oh, you've had 8 hours of sleep and a cup of coffee? Kind of makes sense, right? So that's what you want to go ahead and look at when you're doing that. You're still efficient because you're still moving the needle and moving forward. But at the same time, you're focusing on the right things given the capability that you have. Make sense? Okay, so moving right along. Megan says, learn this lesson the hard way with chronic illness as well. Bingo. So for those of you that don't know, okay, you're going to find out all sorts of things about me and my life in this particular training, again, because it's the only way that you're going to learn and have it hit home. So I quit Anthem because I got sick. I developed multiple ulcers. I developed precancerous cells in my esophagus. It was my third cancer scare inside of 18 months. The doctor had said you need, and I wasn't able to eat solid food. So the doctor said you needed to make some changes. And me being me said, I got shit to do. I don't have time for this. No, I'm going. I pushed myself for another 10 days and another 10 days of not eating and throwing up every day and another 10 days of not sleeping and me feeling like hell until finally I woke up at 7:52 in the morning on a Friday in March. And I said, I can't live like this anymore. And I quit my job without a net. And now, when I push myself too hard, I got a lot of mamas out there that care about me that go, are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you taking your vitamins? Did you make sure that you eat today? All of those things, because those are the things that are my weakness. I forget. And yes, I can be my size and forget to eat. It happens all the time. But what ends up happening is that when I start to not feel well or when I start to push myself too hard, then I reel myself back and I focus on my self-care. I focus on making sure that I sleep. I go back to basics. With the damage that I did with pushing myself too hard, I was eating, it took me almost 18 months to be able to eat regularly daily, and not have it be soup, mashed potatoes, or crackers. It took me 3 years to be able to eat 2 to 3 meals a day regularly. And I'm still working on that where I'm able to physically be okay. And since then, I've also had two surgeries. I had an appendectomy that came clear out of nowhere. And last year, right during AEP, I had a hysterectomy. So learning to listen to your body is imperative. And if you don't listen, what'll end up happening is that, your body is going to talk for you. So it is a lesson learned, and Megan's right with that. I cannot stress enough to you guys. You do want to build that into your daily routine. Those are definitely things. There's some self-care things that when we get a little bit down the line, you're going to see that I do that are built in that are non-negotiables. They're actively in my calendar, and they're to make me feel good. They're to make me stop. For the longest time, it was very difficult for me I was raised in a household that if you sat on the couch, you were lazy. If you sat still for a minute, you were lazy. And that was unacceptable. Even if you were reading a book, it was unacceptable. You were not allowed to sit still. Um, and because of that, as I got older, it became difficult for me to sit in my own space. it became difficult for me to sit and rest and be able to TikTok or to play a video game on my phone or to read a book or do something. Now I really enjoy it, but I actually had to work to deprogram myself on that. It took me a solid 2 years to get to be able to sit in my space. And I learned a whole lot about myself, which you'll hear about in a little bit, right? So, and Catrice said, yeah, she was raised like that too. Oh yeah. It's the nature. I think it was part of the 80s growing up, with how that was done. So moving forward in this, you have a third view of time management and the definitions, which is work smarter, not harder. A lot of people wonder how it is that, when I left Anthem, they hired 10 people to do the job that I was doing. At one point, there was only one of me that managed 20 to 2,200 agents, and I did 60 some odd events, all the RSVPs, all the event planning, produced, wrote the Cs and everything else, plus managed the 2,200 agents, just me by myself. That's a lot. You wonder why I got sick, right? But it was all about being smart with focusing. Again, are you doing the right things at the right time, and are you doing it effectively? So that's really where you want to, the different frames of mind when you're looking at this, right? So it was a no-brainer for me to be my own boss, yes. Which God love Rob Cleary, because he's like, you should go out on your own. And I couldn't see how I could do it financially. That's what stopped me from doing it. But luckily, I found a couple people that believed in me enough through TLC, which was Craig and Chris Vilwalk, and I was able to make that dream a reality, which was super cool. So when we go into the habits, okay, so deep diving into the 7 habits of highly effective people. The first one is that you want to be proactive. So for me, um, I'm aware of my deadlines. I'm aware of, I want to prep. So, I'll give you an example of this. Right now, my downline meets every 2 weeks or so. And every 2 weeks, I give them things to focus on. This week it's that, these 2 weeks it's certification. This 2 weeks it's getting out and planning your events. The next 2 weeks it is, did you get all of your fourth quarter mailers knocked out? Have you started your meal prep? Jenny Chumley Hogue on the Ms. Medicare Facebook group did a wonderful post going, have you thought about all of these things, from Halloween costumes to Christmas stuff to doctor's appointments to meal prep to laundry services and house cleaning? Have you started looking at all of these things to make sure that these hurdles, while you're in a slow time, you can focus on those now rather than trying to fit those into an already busy schedule? Those that win in the game of working in fourth quarter, it's all about time management. Are you focusing on the right things at the right time? And I'm going to say that a million times until you actually have it in your head, just like steam your damn tablecloths before you go to a community event, right? So most of you quote me on that one all day long, and it's a tongue-in-cheek joke. But you will learn that as you do that, and it's in the back of your head, then it becomes implemented, right? So that's where we're going with all of that. So the next one that you've got is that you've got an end goal. So look at the goal that I was talking about with setting up those dream trips. So for next year, I started planning, we recalibrated. So after going to Greece, we had another Europe trip planned, and Tim said, I need a break from this. So this upcoming year, 2025, we're planning a trip to Alaska. So that is the end goal. The end goal is to be in Alaska middle of May. And what does that look like? So, with that being the end goal, I have sourced out what the excursions are going to look like. I haven't bought anything yet, but I know how expensive they're going to be. I looked at what the airfare is going to be and how expensive that is. Now, I did buy that a couple of months ago or about 6 weeks ago because I needed to. Um, and then I put the down payment on the cruise. Now, that money is due in January. So I need to figure out at the end, the goal is to get us to Alaska in May. How do I back that in? Your end goal may be to write 100 policies during AEP. Okay, that's an attainable goal. How are you going to get yourself there? Do you have all the things lined up to be able to set you up for success? What does that look like? And that's primarily how this works. Set your goal and back into it the activity. Okay? Any questions on that? If you have them, put them in the chat or the Q&A for me. So, which I just opened up both so that I can see it. There we go. Okay. When we go ahead and moving right along. So then you've got to prioritize. So you are focusing on the things that are a priority. So, for example, this week, my priority was one, being in Orlando and doing a presentation regarding the Inflation Reduction Act and meeting all of those people. My next priority is getting all of the outstanding licensing stuff done and in the buttoned up by Friday, today. And then my third main priority was going ahead and making sure that, well, candidly, the mess with WellCare, I had to deal with it. I've had multiple reporter interviews. I've had a bunch of work regarding NAFA, NABIP, and everything else that I've been working on. So those were my three priorities this week to get done and to make sure that we were good to minimize the stress moving forward, right? So you want to make sure that you are doing that as you are going through and as you're identifying, okay, where it is. Many of you know I live and die by the rule of what? Anybody want to put it in the comments? What's my rule? I live and die by a number of activities. What is it? 3. I live and die by 3. And some of you are going to be like, what the hell is she talking about? Every day, give yourself 3 action items that are high priority. What are the 3 high priority things that you got to get done today? And then those 3 main priorities need to roll up into what your 3 big priorities are that you wanted to get done for the week, which are the ones that I just gave you. Then those 3 big priorities for the week go towards the bigger ones for the month. And so on until you get to where you need to go. That's how you go forward. Now, why is it 3? Why isn't it 10? Why isn't it 5? Why is it 3 that I choose to use? So, guys, I have now been, in essence, teaching for what, 15 years now? I teach a minimum of, well, right now I'm teaching about 90 classes in 6 months every year. I do a lot of teaching. I see a lot of you. And the biggest thing that I see with you guys is that you are overwhelmed. If you weren't overwhelmed, you wouldn't be on this call. And the way to manage your stress level, and even mine, is on the tough days. How do I manage your stress so that way it becomes attainable and you're not so overwhelmed? And Megan says, sell my kids. Yeah. So when you're looking at it, if I focus on three things, that doesn't overwhelm anybody. I can do three things today. In 24 hours, I should be able to do three things. We should be good with that. My day doesn't end until those three things are done, which means that there's some days my three things are knocked out and I go play for the day. And there's other days that I don't get my three things done and I'm here working until 2 a.m. It happens. But come hell or high water, those three things that I set myself to do up for that day are done. There is no negotiating on it. The only time that there is a negotiating that I fall flat on those are when I'm sick and in a hospital or sick and at home. Outside of that, my three things each day get done. And when you do that, if you do the quick math, three things each day means that you have 21 things that were on your to-do list that are now done. And that's where it becomes attainable. So I'm going to butcher your name. So I'm going to call you Lynn because I don't know how to pronounce the other part of it. And I'm sorry. But do I set three things on a personal side? Yes, I do. I do. And they're dumb. They're really dumb. I'm really bad with water. So I have a 32-ounce, water bottle. And some of you are like, okay, but you have ms.med cups. I have been using these same water bottles that I got down in Pensacola, Orange Beach, Florida, since I was in the 7th grade. So 2 of these bottles, because they're 32 ounces, gives me 64 ounces of fluid each day. So I make sure that I do this. That's one of my personal goals. The other one right now that I'm actively working on is eating at least twice a day. And then the third one is it's dumb, but you know what? Okay, make sure that you go ahead and you're getting some movement in, and making that happen and getting that consistent. These are, so Kelly, it's 3 a day and then they roll up to the week. So you have 3 each day that are your daily activities that are priority. And then at the end of the week, you have a target that by the end of the week, I want to have all of the, I want to have larger goals set that roll into the 3 a day activity. Does that make sense? Think of it like a tree. So you've got the baby things here that roll up into the next big one, that roll up into the next big one. Make sense? So, okay, good. So that's how I do my goals, is that I start with, well, what do I have to complete for the week? Next week's goals for me are I need to catch up on all the emails from me traveling. That is priority number 1 for a large week for next week. Number 2 is that I need to plan the rest of my month, and get, prioritize what has to happen and look at what needs to happen for the agents to be ready come October 1. The next larger one for next week is I am positive I am going to have to do additional fallout regarding the well care and IRA stuff, and I need to go ahead and get that prep done on the back, behind the scenes. So that will be my third large earmark. Okay. Now my dailies on that. My emails, I flush my emails daily, but I've got to add in an extra 2 hours working on my emails every day in order to clean out the amount of email that I get. I get 400 emails a day minimum. So, and most of that is action item. It's not junk mail. So I've got to work that through. Then I've got the assessing what needs to happen for AEP for that larger goal. I've got a bunch of webinars planned next week. I've got some rollouts next week, and I need to hear, and as I'm listening, because the agents know that I'm back in the office, I will hear what I need, where the weak points are with all of you, and I will build that into the rest of the month so that I can get you guys where you need to go with the soft points that you have, right? then you have the well care and the CMS stuff. That's a whole other side discussion, which I have multiple meetings next week planned that I'm going to have extra work on and follow up in regard to some of that. So yes, if you get lost in those large things, they sound super, super huge. So you have to break them up into pieces that are manageable. And in order to do that, you've got to break it into those three things because the three things are easy to do each day. It doesn't sound as bad and it becomes attainable. And I hope that that makes better sense to all of you as to how we go ahead and we do that. Okay. So flipping back, then you've got the win-win. So do you need to bring in other partners? Do you need to bring in staff? Do you need to bring in volunteers? Do you need to bring in your kids or your husband? Who do you have to bring in to position things so that everybody wins? And I am all about, as you know, let's go with a team mentality. I may be the general and may be leading you into a different way, but we all win if we band together, right? You've heard me say that multiple times. So that's basically the idea of fostering the right relationships, looking and marching towards the same goals at the same time as we're doing this. And how do we work together to get to the end game and to the end goal? So when you're doing this, again, we're going back to the listening skills here. So in order to do this, you have to have really good communication skills. You have to be able to fundamentally communicate and listen to hear, not listen to respond. Okay. So when you are listening to hear, you're hearing the concerns. I'm hearing that you're scared. I'm hearing that you're overwhelmed. I'm hearing that, you may have a soft spot on hospital indemnity plans and selling those and whatever that may be. But I'm listening with intent to everything that you guys say and everything that you post. So then I can work to then move us all forward as to why things are happening, how they're happening, and what the next move is. And that's where you want to go in the next step. So then once we get a little bit further, now it's okay, how are we going to focus on getting better? And as a independent business owner that you all are, you have to do your own professional development, i.e., read the books every month or once a quarter. I only have time to read usually when I'm on an airplane or first thing in the morning. I do 30 minutes of reading every morning while I'm having my coffee and then on the airplane because, well, it's usually the only time that I can focus. You want to continually look at how do I develop and get myself better. The other thing that you want to look at is your self-care because candidly, as women, self-care sucks. So, get your hair done, get your nails done, take a walk, take a bath, take 5 minutes to sit in silence and drink your cup of coffee with nobody talking to you. That would be me. Where you're looking out of a window and watching the birds. Those are the types of things that you want to go ahead and do. Because believe it or not, and this is going to freak out some of you. I know I've said this to Megan. I know I've said this to Robin and Kim and a couple of other people. When you're overwhelmed, I want you to stop. I want you to walk away. Yeah, I want you to walk away. I understand that you've got 9,000 things to do. I understand that there comes a point in time where you're looking at it and there's all of these things that are on your plate. You do no good to anybody trying to get all of them done today and being overwhelmed. You are better off to do the reset, Jill. You're right. Do a personal reset. This is one of those things that I do. I go ahead and I stop and I walk away. So every Saturday or Sunday, I don't do a thing. I don't do any chores. I don't do anything. I sleep in. I do not set an alarm clock. I go ahead and whatever the day holds, I make no plans. Whatever the day holds, the day holds. Some days that's me sitting on a couch in the dark and not moving and watching Sex in the City or cartoons. And then there's other days where we're out going and doing something. But what you're going to do is you're going to stop. That stop where you just let your brain stop and just be you allows you to do that reset. So then you have the ability of when you come back at it on Monday or Sunday or whenever you're doing it and you plug back in, you can run that much farther, that much faster. So even though it sounds like it's counterproductive, I give myself a rule is if I am at work and I can't concentrate or I know that something is taking me longer to get done because my concentration is off, I do one of two things. I either shift to something that is brainless, like signing cards or some other kind of dumb activity that needs to be done, or I take myself home. You're done. I put myself in a timeout until the next day. And what ends up happening is the next day, I am running far faster. And then that thing that ends up that I needed to get done that was taking me 2 hours now takes me 20 minutes. You have to become extremely self-aware to be able to run the way that you need. We all have ups and downs, guys. We're all going to have it where something happens where you squirrel. You can't concentrate because your kid has an exam or is trying out on for a track team or a football team, and you're worried about going ahead and how are they going to do. So you can't concentrate on work because you're focusing on your kid. That's going to happen. So focus on the dumb stuff while you're worried about the kid going to tryouts. And then take the stuff that you should have been focusing on and focus on that after the tryout is done. Be smart about what you're looking at and where you're concentrating. If you are trying to fight yourself, it's going to put you backwards. You're better off to go ahead and have it where you are working with the flow. You know, it's easier to work with the flow of the water than it is to fight against it. It's easier to walk with the wind, where sometimes the wind can work, as you're walking with it, it can almost have you lose your footing, but you're walking faster because it's easier to move than it is to go ahead and walk in the face of a 50-mile-an-hour wind. Granted, it feels great in your hair, but your legs are getting a workout as you're trying to move yourself forward. Do the analogies make sense? Is this making sense and hitting home for you guys, or am I off? Okay, good. I'm on point. There we go. Okay. So these are the things that you want to be aware of when you're doing this. Okay. And sometimes you got to step away to be able to make that happen. Okay. So the next one, you've got to find some synergy. So this one is the one that is one I got to talk about this one for a minute. You got to find your tribe. You got to find your tribe in multiple places, okay? And God knows I've done that with all of you. So I build high performance teams. Everybody asks, how the hell do you have a team that does the work that they do and puts the output out to the caliber that they do? How is that possible? So now I'm going to share that with you. One, I hire for characteristics. I don't hire for your background. The background is about this much. Your personality and your aptitude is this much. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm looking for, are you a people person? Do you have critical thinking skills? How is your customer service? I'm looking for, do we gel? Can you actually go ahead and can you think on your feet if I throw something at you? Are you somebody who, and depending on the job is going to dictate what skills I'm looking for. Okay. So I'll give you examples. Heather is my data analyst and manages my agency block. She runs the system that runs my business. Heather is an introvert all day long. She is one of the most brilliant minds I have ever met. At the same time, she is perfectly happy working at home by herself and being hands off. I don't have to micromanage her, manage her. All I have to do is say, Heather, this is your job. Here's the things that I ultimately want to have happen. Here, go. And I check in with her and she checks in with me almost daily, but it's her checking in with me saying, hey, I've got this going on and here's what's happening. We have a dialogue, but I don't need her in the office every day. I trust her just fine at home. And I know she's working every day, 8 hours a day, some days more than that. Days like this time of year, she's working way more than that. Then you look at other people that I have on my team. They are outgoing. They are customer service oriented. They run balls to the wall like I do, where, with their hair on fire, they manage 9,000 things at them and they're real good at it. You have to look at the people and the position that you're putting them in and hire them effectively. I tell everybody that works with me, it's a 1-year training program. And some of them look at me, roll their eyes and laugh and go, I don't need a year to learn this. It's not that deep. No, it's not that deep. But you need to understand each week and each month, the focus changes. And until you can understand why the focus changes and how things are, you won't fully understand why we're doing what we're doing when we're doing it until you've lived it. And then at that point, usually about 8 months in, I get, well, damn, you're right about that. Now I understand why you did it for a full year. Exactly. Now, do I have to manage somebody because they can't do deadlines and all of that? Of course you do. But at the end of the day, the lessons and the stuff that they learn is for a full year. What do you do if you're just starting out and you don't have a tribe yet? Well, you found me and you found the ms.medicare group, so you have a tribe starting. When you need to go ahead and the biggest thing that you need to do is you need to find some friends locally, which how you find your friends is you join NABEP, National Association of Benefit and Insurance Professionals. They have local chapters everywhere. You attend your carrier meetings and you sit at a table. And rather than sit at a table and not introduce yourself, you look at somebody, extend your hand and say, hi, my name's Amanda Brewton. Nice to meet you. This is my first year. How long have you been doing this? And you start to make friends. We as adults don't do that very well, but you got to do it. When you do those things and you start networking, so what I tell all of my agents is I want you networking with 5 people every day. 5 people. I want you to extend your hand and introduce yourself to 5 people every day. Organically, you're going to have that tribe that starts to grow automatically. And as that happens, nobody's going to bite you. Nobody's going to make fun of you. Nobody's going to think that you're odd man out. The reverse is going to happen. They're going to look at you as somebody who has initiative. They're going to look at you and go, I need to pay attention to that one. And that's what you want to have happen. So do it. 5 people every day. I don't care if it's at the grocery store. I don't care if it's at your kid's school. I don't care if you're sitting there on the mom line waiting to pick your kid up. Get out of your damn car. Go knock on the door to the person in front of you and go, hi, you got a kid here too? I do. My name's Amanda Brewton and my kid's in 7th grade. I just thought that I'd introduce myself. Meet people, guys. You gotta do it. That is how you go ahead and you get to where I am, where I can walk in a room and so many people know me and know what I'm about. More often than not, I try to make each individual person feel special. And that takes a little bit of effort to do, but you gotta work on those skills. Okay. I hope that that helps, Sarah. Did it? It doesn't happen overnight, but break it off into little chunks. If you can't meet 5 people, start with 1. Do that for a month and then uptick it to 2, then uptick it to 3. But you gotta do some forward motion to be able to get you to where you want to be, if that makes sense. Okay. So, and as you find your people, what you're going to find is each one of the people that are on my team, they do something that I can do all the jobs. I know I can, but I'm not as good as they are. So Cindy's creative skills are far better than mine. So it's better to have her work on that. And it's something that she loves to do. So why would I take my time to design something when she can do it in 5 minutes where it's going to take me an hour? You find that and you collaborate and you start working together, and you have to listen to the others in the group and hear their ideas. Because candidly, there's so many different ways that you can come to something. But that's what you want to go ahead and look at, right? So going into the priorities and going into how you identify how do you prioritize your day? You want to do it in this matrix that you're seeing right here. What's urgent? What's not really urgent, but it's something that we got to do? What's stuff that's important? And what's stuff that it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. So what? If it happens, it happens today. If it doesn't, so what? And you want to prioritize your day in that. So today I had a book of business that I purchased. So I had to meet with an agent to do that. That was a priority, getting all of that paperwork signed and getting that done and making sure that he and his wife were comfortable with what was happening. I had to catch up on some of the stuff that was going on a legislative side. So I had a Zoom with a very dear friend of mine who is a colleague that works with that has connections on Capitol Hill. And then my other priority today was to deliver this. So these are the different things that are my priorities. Now, the not so urgent things that I have, okay, there's 9,000 other emails that are in my inbox that if I get to them, great. If I don't, they can slide to tomorrow. Some of the important ones that can't necessarily slide are filing the CEs that are for later on this month. Those got to get done. That has a deadline. You have to identify which ones of your priorities are there. Okay, so heads up on that. So eat the frog. How many of you guys have heard this term? Yes, no? Yeah. Get your yucky stuff out. Get it knocked out of the way. Whether you like it or not, get it out of the way. So basically what you want to do is you want to take the hard and yucky stuff, get it done first thing in the day when you're most productive, and then that sets the tone. Get your hardest stuff done in the morning, and then after that, it's smooth sailing. And that's really where you want to go ahead and make that it's there. You want to set your goals. Set your goals for the day. Every night before I go to bed, I prioritize what is on deck for the next day. I look at my schedule, see what I have scheduled for the day. Then I go ahead and I look at, okay, in addition to all the calls and the meetings and the stuff that I have, what are the 3 I identify? What are my 3 key things that I have got to do today? And then that sets how early do I have to get up? Is it a 4 a.m. day? Is it a 6 a.m. day? Is it an 8 a.m. day? What kind of a day do I have to allow myself for tomorrow to get those things completed? And then from there, that gives me where I need to go. Okay. That's the planning in advance. Anything is possible. So I had somebody yesterday, I took a meeting where I had somebody that wanted me to talk next April. And she's like, is this even an option? Yeah, I got notice. I had one of my agents on the call before I started this webinar. She says, well, I want to do this meeting and there's 200 people that are possibly able to come. I'm kind of freaked about doing this by myself. And I giggled and I said, send me the date, put it in an email, and I'll make it happen. As long as you give me more than 24 hours worth of notice, I usually can make something happen. I try to have it where you give me the more notice that you give me, the more the odds are that the answer is yes. If you try to get on my calendar and message me and text me and say, hey, can I get in your calendar today? Odds are no, I'm booked solid. Those people have been waiting for probably a good week to get on my calendar. But plan that way, guys. The devil is in the details. And if you plan your days, the stress goes way down because you know what to expect and what's going to happen. So you want to also focus on the right things. Many of you, and from January to July, you start being, or that if you're new, you start being afraid to pull the trigger. You will take 6 webinars in a day and learn all the different things and then not do sales producing activity. And then a month later be complaining about, well, I have no paycheck. No shit, you have no paycheck. You didn't do anything to do it. You did a lot of learning, but you didn't do anything that was sales engaging. That's a problem. So my rule of thumb is this: no more than 3 webinars a week. That's it. You have training that you need to do, no more than 3 trainings in a week. Everything else that you do that week in that 40 hours, so that's 6 hour, worst case, that's 6 hours worth of training in a 40-hour work week. The rest of that all needs to be focused on the most value that you can get out in the community to write business. How do you write business? Getting out and getting your name and networking with people. Number one way to do that. So you've got to focus on those things to get you to where you need to be. So, yes, I'm going to talk about my days in a minute. I've just got to get through another couple of slides and I'm going to show you that. You've also got to figure out what your consequences are on procrastinating and not doing something. You've got to look at that also. We all know this, is it going to hurt you or is it going to help you? The stuff that hurts you, some of the stuff, if you miss a deadline, like missing the contracting deadline that's today, that'll hurt you. You can't move anything until January. You're stuck. That's your own fault if you miss that deadline. And oh, by the way, come Monday or on Tuesday where you go, oh, well, I forgot or it got lost in my junk or I didn't see it. They don't care. Deadline's a deadline's a deadline. End of story. It's done. So delegating. This is something that freaks people out. You got to do it. Delegate and trust in the team that you have. If the team isn't going ahead and you don't trust your team to do their job, you need to find new people. Let me say that again. You're afraid to go ahead and have somebody work at home. That says you don't trust them. Go find somebody else that you trust. You're wasting your time. You should be able to trust the people that you employ or the people that are around you that you work with. Keep in mind, that does not mean that you're a chump. That does not mean that you get used. That does not mean that there aren't boundaries. Oh, there are. But you need to delegate some of the stuff and get it off your plate. Take the stuff that is dumb work and give it to somebody else. Pay them $15 to $18 an hour to get that stuff so that you can focus on actually selling. It makes way more sense as you're doing it. Okay. So some people assign tasks in a day, letters, as to what's most important versus least. Instead of doing that box trying to identify how things are important, this is a different way. You take a task list and you prioritize it and say, all my A stuff has to be done and done for I have the hiccups. It has to be done first. And then some of this stuff is dead. We need to just eliminate it. And then they prioritize their day that way. Okay. You have to find what works for you and how that actually works. And then again, we go back into the concentration that I've already talked about. You've got to go ahead and get that so that that you're focusing. Donna says box calendars don't work for me, and that's totally fine. Some people it doesn't. Some people need old-fashioned calendars and they write in the ones that are in the books. The other ones, like me, I live and die by my Outlook calendar, which you're going to see in a minute. So I'm on the ABC screen. Do I need to go back one more, Janine? Okay. So when we go ahead and we look at, I'm hitting the wrong damn key. Sorry. Atomic Habits. This is reading book number 2. How many of you guys read this one? James Clear, Atomic Habits. Anybody? Okay, this one is on your homework. Put it on your Audible, your Kindle, or actually get the book so that you can read it. Atomic Habits is an amazing book. There are so many parts of this book that are fantastic. I highly recommend that you read it. It is in my top 10 of books that you need to read. So definitely go ahead and check it out. Some of the things that you're going to see is that, you've got to go ahead at, the first law of behavior changes to make your habits obvious. This involves designing your environment and using clear cues to trigger that desired behavior. By making the cues of your habits obvious, you're likely to increase them. That's that rule of 3, right? So, Carol, I do not have my top 10 book list posted anywhere. It is in one of my class presentations. I will try and find it and get that out at some point, but I want to buzz through the next 13 minutes so that I get you guys out in time. But I will do that as a follow-up. So when we go ahead and we look at it, you've got to go ahead and put your habits into, is there a benefit to making that a habit? I need to walk every day. Well, okay, how can I jazz that up? Well, you can get yourself outside. You can do it, in a gym. You can jam out to music. For those of you that don't know, on Spotify, there is a Ms. Medicare playlist that, you all have added music to. But it's got some good workout music to it. I know Jerry Taylor goes ahead and uses it, and so that it becomes fun. Is it something that you're looking forward to and it becomes something that is engaging to you? That's where you want to go ahead, and when you're formulating habits, try to find the fun in it. If you have not, remember the scene in Mary Poppins where they're cleaning the room and she says, find the fun and snap? That's what you want to do. Find the fun. And if you have to sing the Mary Poppins song, do it. But those are the things that you want to do when you're trying to establish goals. And know that it takes you a hot minute to make those new learned things into a habit. You've got to get rid of some of the hurdles that are there. Is it that, you need to work out, so you need new tennis shoes, or you need earbuds so that way you can blast music into your ears that are noise canceling so that nobody hears you. Whatever it is, you've got to go ahead and do all of that. And then you have to reinforce the behavior. So make it satisfying so that you actually feel good about what it is that you're doing. For me, I'm not a morning person. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not a morning person. So, me talking in the morning, I can't control my facial expressions and my tone. So, if I talk to somebody before 9 a.m. and it sounds harsh, I don't mean it to be, but I have that as a weakness. So, I figured out, okay, sit your happy behind down, have your cup of coffee, and you read for the first hour or half hour so that you read, you have your coffee, you shower, you get dressed, and then you go off to work. In that amount of time, my coffee has now had the time to hit. I've now read all of my industry periodicals and the things that I need to stay up to date on what's happening. And I've gone ahead and I've benefited all of you that try to get a hold of me before 9 a.m., where I respond to something and you're looking at it going, oh my God, is she a bitch? No, I don't mean to be. It just ends up that, okay, my caffeine hasn't hit. I'm groggy as hell and I just can't formulate it. It's my weakness. We all know this. It's actually, we laugh at it at times, right? So those are things that you want to go ahead and look at. Now, I am going to share my personal calendar because many of you want to actually know how I do this. So you're going to be horrified with my calendar, and I'm going to share it now so that you can see it. This, this is my August. This was my July. That was my June. And yes, you can see all like this day, there are 7 entries in here. You can see all the back-to-back appointments that are on there and the teaching and all the things. I color code my stuff. So anything that is in this green, and for those of you that don't know how to do that, if I go in here and I come into a given day or a given thing, you can set your categories up to be different things that you want them to be. So as you can see, I have a key, if you will, of all the different colors. So, and it defaults to the pink, which makes me crazy because I would really rather it default to the blue. But what this does is it shows you, let me go back into August, this one. Okay. So what this does is this allows me to catalog any of these meetings so that way we know where I am, how I am, and my staff has access to my calendar. Now, my big rocks are all of the stuff that is in that's personal. So as you can see, you've got kids weekends and Tim and you've got nails and all of the other stuff that are in there. That is how I catalog it. If we go into, yes, this is Outlook. You can do it in other functionality as well. But if we go into November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So you can see that I've got all of this stuff loaded in already. And we're not out of 2024. But this stuff is planned a year ahead of time. My goals, my big rocks, like those cruises and the things that I'm telling you about, those are done 2 years in advance. But I set those up so that it's not it's in there. So now I have to plan around it. Those are my non-negotiables. The other things that are in here, which let me show you real quick. Let me get you back here. Is if we look here, you can see that I've got my nail appointments in here on Saturday. Those are in there. I live and die by this calendar. One, I do this because it allows me, I use Calendly. because it is the best $15 that you will ever spend. It allows people to have access to your calendar to set up time with you. So for me to show you how we utilize Calendly, let me come into here. You go onto my website, in the top corner, it says schedule a meeting. So they have the ability of, if you want to contract with us, you use this link. If you are in my downline, you have access to me for an hour with either one of these two tiles. If you need help with contracting, you can get into Asia on this one. Each one of these links goes to somebody else. Add on top of it that if you look at if I do a new meeting or I set up my signature. So there is a Calendly link right here. Need some time to talk? Use this link. So anyone that has access to my email can click into this link right here, which I'm going to hit. And this is going to link in to show you my availability. So as you can see, these are the days that I have time available to be able for anybody to get on my calendar. So Friday, okay, Friday's a bad day. Most of next week is a bad day. I've got a lot more availability then. We've got way more availability the later in the week that we go. And it's going to depend on, so it looks like right now the 26th is the easiest. If you're looking for a morning appointment with me, the 26th is the earliest that I've got. But this allows anyone to access me at any point in time. Now, how does this work? You click into it, you set up the date, you put in your information, and I give you the choice. How are we meeting? Am I doing a phone call? Are we doing a Zoom? Or are you stopping into my office? And if you're stopping in with any of these, what is it that I need to know about this meeting? What are we doing? Now, for me, because of just how I roll, I need that background because I prep for my meetings. So before we even sit down, I've looked at that calendar link, usually as it comes in the back of my head, I go, okay, I need to prep for that. And I start thinking about whatever the meeting is that I have coming. And this is where that is. Is there a way to preload what you have in Outlook to Calendly? They sync. So real time, I have at any given point in time, because that Calendly link is out on Outlook, it's on Facebook, LinkedIn, it's on my website. All of my agents have access to that link. Anybody that I've ever sent an email to has it. I mean, you've got thousands of people that potentially have access to that link. And anytime that somebody books something, it automatically knocks it off so that way they can't double book. That's the beauty of it. And you can set up your times where you only want, so let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to take meetings from 9 to 5. But Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going to take meetings from 11 to 8 p.m. You can set it up so that way it'll show the availability. It's super, super easy. And those are the things that you want to go ahead and look at when you are like for the different types of systems that are out there that are available to you to play with when you're doing this, right? So other things that you want to go ahead and look at, which believe it or not, I actually did cover a lot of this. I just went outside of the box. So other things that you can look at, for task management, the task management on the Microsoft Office stuff is fantastic. It feeds into your Outlook and your calendar. You can set up follow-ups, which are great. If you need to learn more about the functionality on how Outlook works, go to Udemy. It's Udemy. This is an online learning platform. It's super affordable, but you can find classes on everything from Canva to Excel to business coaching to communication to all of the things. I highly recommend that you enroll in some of these classes. They don't, these prices, they go on sale all the time. So I have not paid more than $30 for coursework on this site, and it is super well worth the time. It will also allow you to move forward as to the development that you have when you're looking at it. And I know that we're at time, so I do want to go ahead, and I see that there's a couple of questions, so I'm going to go ahead and look at those. But I like Calendly, and I know that agency has the functionality. I started with Calendly before agency block scheduling was available. Um, I live and die by it just because I can change it and it's what I know, and I'm not ready to change to something else. Um, you have to pick what works for you guys. Franklin Covey, if you are a paper girl or paper boy that you like writing things in calendar or in actual hard copy calendars, look at the Franklin Covey calendars. They're very, very good, and they will help you with this whole thing. They do have workshops on how to do the time management as well. Back in the 90s, that was a big thing, was Franklin Covey time management calendars and how to do that. I highly recommend that you look at it. Laurel Denise has some awesome paper calendars too. Yeah, pick your flavor. But I hope that you guys found this. We're at time, so I am going to close. I did record this. Thank you to the ladies that reminded me at the beginning. So I will get this out on YouTube. I hope that you found this informative. I am teaching public speaking on Tuesday, I believe, at 3 o'clock. So if you want that one, by all means, join. Um, and I'm glad that you guys found this informative. I am so happy to hear that. I hope that you attend other trainings that I do. Please tell your other agent friends to follow me and link in with me on social media. And have a great Labor Day weekend, guys. I will talk with you all soon. Thank you.